Welcome to the Genies in the Botnet podcast. I'm Rosie Anderson, Head of Strategic Solutions, and
My name is Lisa Diaz, and I am Rosie's mini genie. Cue lamp.
Yay! Together we are the Genies in the Botnet. Lisa, let's rub our lamp, and who is this week's leader? Rubbing the lamp.
We have to rub it really hard and think really hard and really wish. Summon all our genie powers, and we have the marvelous Lauren Wilson, who is a senior leader in cyber incident management. Hello, Lauren, and thank you for joining us today.
So exciting to be here. You're really underdressed, you're sparkly and lovely, and you've got your bottle. So this is a very different podcast, but I'm a pleasure to be a part of it.
Can you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day role and what you do?
So what do I do day to day? So I've been in incident management now for nearly a decade. I think it's just a place that I gravitated towards in cyber as being the cool place where all the good stuff happens. And I kind of fell there, and then I've stayed there ever since, because like I say, I think it is one of the most exciting parts of cyber. So on a day-to-day, what it looks like at the moment. So I'm in more of a strategic leadership position now than potentially being in the trenches that I used to be back in my earlier in my career, handling individual incidents. Now I do much more on the exercising and preparedness, but also I lead major incidents at an organisation should we have one. And a lot of that day-to-day looks like readiness, so making sure that the organisation as a whole understands how they respond to a cyber incident. So it looks like exercising, tabletop exercising the execs and different teams in the organisation, that just helps them get into their own minds what their roles and responsibilities are in an incident, where the playbooks or the documentation lives, and just practicing like you would a fire drill in a fire, just to make sure that the day, unfortunately, if it does happen, they will be as ready as they can be for a cyber crisis.
How often do you sort of practice with your SLT? What's sort of the nice balance between too much and too little, would you say?
Yeah, so really good question. So I'd say it all depends on the size of the organisation and the hierarchy of governance that you have for incident management. So I implement a bronze, silver, gold structure, which is quite common in the police and other crisis response centres. And that you start the gold at the top, which is the strategic UK board level of the organisation, and the silver and bronze have delegated responsibility to take action in a cyber incident. So at the bottom layer, bronze, it's the doers doing the doers. I always say it's the people that are taking those remediation actions and doing the recovery activities as part of a cyber incident, kind of at middle management, kind of a senior leader level, at the silver level, where they make decisions on resourcing and priorities for the organisation in terms of like what systems we bring back up first. So having those three layers are really important for both governance and structure. But when it comes to exercising, you're right, you wouldn't want to be bringing together your board every other week to kind of practice this. You wouldn't get that time for a start, but it's not practical. And think about different sides of organisations. Some of these are quite costly. If you've got the internal capability to do that, then that's brilliant. But sometimes you have to. In most cases, organisations will bring in some level of external consultancy to help with their incident exercising, and that's got to be cost benefit analysis of what makes sense. So for me at the moment, we exercise gold annually. That feels about right. It's it's not too often that you struggle to not get everybody there, but it's often enough that cyber's continue to be in people's minds. So that's annual for gold, and then silver and bronze has a different cadence depending on which part of the business, or kind of, I suppose, you wouldn't want to do a exercise too close to the last one. So often you come away with loads of actions that you want to take. So actually making some real progress towards those actions before you test them again. There's no point going in and rerunning the same thing and having the same findings come out again. Really important that it's a business-led decision, because having stakeholders that are really bought into the process is the most important. It being a collaborative exercise and decision on and how often is reasonable.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so leading into our obviously genie and three wishes theme, Lisa, do you want to go with the first question?
I can do, yes. Okay, so Lauren, what do you wish you knew before you became a senior leader in incident management?
Good question. What do I wish? I think that something that I learned quite starkly was when I moved to the private sector. So I'd grown up in my career in government, and that was, brilliant. I had so many pros of doing so. But what it didn't prepare me for was when I went into the private sector and realised that not everybody cares about cyber like I do. And it was like a real kind of culture shock, because for me, I'd been around world-class experts that we all, lived and breathed cyber, and we all really cared passionately about it. And, it was obvious to us why cybersecurity was important. And you'll get that in kind of really, pockets of cybersecurity teams within an organisation. But when you try and operate in it, alongside IT, and the broader organisation, you're competing for a set of stakeholders' time and energy and resource, and you are competing against other stakeholders who think their problem or their area of expertise is most important. So having to almost go into battle for cyber was a really new and odd concept for me. So yeah, I think I really wish I'd have known sooner in my career that not everyone cares about cyber. So yeah, when I came into private sector, having not known that, it was a culture shock, a massive culture shock. And I think I could have been better prepared for that. And I think I had to really catch up on learning those commercial skills, really, that had to really kind of fight for cyber in a way that I'd never had to before. So I'm a decade into my career, having to learn quite a critical necessary skill set in private sector that I hadn't ever touched before. So yeah, that's probably something that I wish I'd have known sooner, and potentially now I'd be better at having metrics and KPIs that can substantiate the work that I do in cyber, because that is a language that the people that we speak to really talk about. So yeah, I think that would have been really helpful knowing sooner.
It's all about showing the return on investment, isn't it? Or making it very relatable to how the business operates. What does this cost in terms of business operations, not necessarily cyber operations? And these are difficult skills to learn. And if you've never done it before, never had it before, it is a big challenge when people change roles or change sectors, or even for new leaders, if they've not done that before. Have you got any sort of top tips that you've learned through fire and toil?
Yeah, I suppose it's just learning from stakeholders. So where naturally you'd kind of want to almost argue your case, just listening carefully to what they've got to say on. So we know it's important. That's something that you're going to have to get across eventually, but actually thinking about what drives them and what their job looks like, what their pressures are internally. If you don't realise that actually they are really tight on budget and their boss is breathing down their neck about the next year's forecast figures or whatever, if you don't really get to know them as an individual and understand their pressures, you can't then frame it in a way that makes your subject matter relatable, like you say, to them. So just really listening, and it's core stakeholder engagement skills. And but I think sometimes we kind of come out of our cyber ivory towers and like I did, and just expect that everybody is going to kind of trust and believe that cyber is the right thing to do. So just going in with a much more open mind and a listening ear to understand what's important to those stakeholders.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect. So what do you wish you could magically eradicate from the cybersecurity space? And you can't say hackers, because that's too...
Oh, I know we'd be out of a job then, wouldn't we? So I think the thing I'd say is people that don't collaborate. So whilst we all hold organizational roles within different sectors or wherever, actually I see my kind of career mission, almost my life mission, which sounds quite grandiose and a bit cliche, but actually making the UK cyberspace safer. That's something that really drives me, and I hope to do that in every role that I kind of go through my career. But to do that, we need to see cybersecurity as a UK-wide industry problem, not just a problem in my particular organisation or my particular area of expertise, because we alone can't solve it. Like, we look at many of the problems that are coming on the landscape, and the threat landscape itself is changing so fundamentally. People that don't collaborate and see this as a real team sport and see the value in collaborating, the kind of what didn't go well or the things that worked really well for them, and removing that kind of commercial competitive advantage mindset that that it's somehow just a part of doing business. Actually, we all have a responsibility as cybersecurity professionals to both do the best for our own internal organisations, but collectively feed that knowledge back wider to help us secure UK cyberspace more wider than that.
Yeah. Do you have places that you collaborate with? I suppose there's CERTs, there's the Cyber Emergency Response Team networks. I'm assuming there's one for energy, as there would be for critical national infrastructure. Have you got other places that you sort of work with?
Yeah, so there's kind of formal stuff, but also informal stuff. I mean, sure, we're in many, WhatsApp groups and channels and stuff that exist with, just former colleagues that we share stuff when we find it, and we have that really good network informally that is often as powerful as the kind of formal networks are. Some of those informal networks are actually even stronger than the formal networks that are kind of set up and organised and potentially led from the centre, like you say. I know NCSC kind of bring together industry forums that can collaborate. But no, I find that the most valuable are former colleagues and kind of maintaining a strong network of individuals that I meet at conferences, and LinkedIn, is a great place for collaboration too.
One of the things that amazes me is, the power of the WhatsApp group, the power of those networks. When are we swearing? If I don't swear on the podcast, it's not going to feel real. When the shit hits the fan, and everyone was going to have a bad day in cyber. Everyone's going to have an incident. It's those people who'll send you dark jokes that will keep you smiling, sort of things, or it's that tribe. I suppose you don't really get it in hairdressing. Maybe you get it in the medical professional, but you don't have like similar bad day that you do have in cybersecurity when your business or it is front and center in the press, or you're being called to speak to the press, or you're getting phone calls from pushy journalists as to how you're handling a response. We see it all the time, don't we? And I suppose we could become quite hardened to it until it's you in that incident, and then actually that's when you need that support network. And it isn't like any other industry, is it? Cybersecurity, it's amazing on its amazing days, but it's pretty tough, I'd imagine, on the hardest days.
And that's it. And like, we've all got friends and family that provide some level of support in those incidents, but actually the people that know it best are the people that have also lived it, or kind of can even understand the specifics of what you're going through. And that might not necessarily be the person that you go to with a personal thing. It might actually be a work colleague or someone in those networks that actually they get it. They don't need to be explained what cyber is or the specifics of it, because they've lived the same experiences and can offer real advice to help you through it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so I'll ask the next question if that's okay, Lauren. Okay, so for your third and final wish, but I've got a little wild card after, if you don't mind. Ooh. But this one, okay, so what do you wish other organisations would learn from best practice in critical national infrastructure?
Good question. So I think as an industry, we are very safety conscious. We have to be. We're working with operational technology. Stuff that goes wrong can go really, really wrong. So we have such a safety culture that's ingrained into us in many ways, in kind of cultural change, but also awareness training that really puts safety front and center. And I think that should then be extrapolated to cybersecurity as well. So seeing this as critical as, when we start have a new employee that comes into the organization and they're doing, the anti-fraud training or whatever, this is something as important as all the other mandatory training that other individuals go through, and this should be seen as something that is absolutely critical to people's roles. So I think we get that right in the critical national infrastructure or the high security environments, because we know the importance of security, and I think whilst it often feels like organizations that maybe not as critical or have small organizations think it's not something that's going to affect them, I think they should see that actually nobody is immune into this, and they need to take it as seriously as we do in CNI, to make sure that their organisations don't suffer huge reputational or financial damages, because even a small incident in a small organisation can be crippling.
I was going to say, do you think because of the regulation, because it's a regulated industry, do you think that makes a difference to sort of the buy-in because it's regulated, or do you think it's because of the safety element, or do you think it's a mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both. I think regulation exists to make sure it's safe, and safety is there because we all understand the implications if it goes wrong. So I think, it's like a chicken and egg situation, I suppose. I suppose regulation follows the best practice that's employed in the organisations, and make sure that's being put into place. I think it's both. It's definitely culturally, we all know the severity of the industries we work in, and regulation follows suit with that to make sure that we're doing exactly what we should be doing in that space.
Okay, and this is just like the wild card fourth wish, if genies can have a fourth wish to grant. But what I know, you've got a young son, and you juggle that with your amazing career. What do you wish other women knew who are thinking of coming into cyber, because it's not easy just being a mum. So being a mum, having this career, this fantastic career that you've shaped for yourself, if there's any kind of advice or any pearls of wisdom.
Good question. I think there's so many benefits that the cybersecurity industry has, and then like we say, we talked about networking and the industry as a whole being a really collaborative, really friendly place, and we all do feel like we're in it together sometimes when it comes to sharing knowledge, and it's a really it's a great safe environment to be in. And I think seeing it as a limiting factor to my ability to be a mother or my wider life would be inaccurate. I think it enables my skills to be a mother, because it's such an accommodating industry, and the work-life balance that you get with the hybrid and remote roles, that's opened so many more doors. Geographic location, the ability to work from home in both tech and cyber is huge, and I think that is a real enabling factor to my ability to be an amazing mother. So I can go to all the the school plays or the nursery activities, and because I can manage my schedule flexibly and be in close proximity to nursery for those events, so that allows me to be that real present mother in that respect. But also the skills that we learn, fighting cyber fires or managing difficult stakeholders, that we do in cyber actually really prepares you for the patience that you need to have a conversation with the toddler having a meltdown in a supermarket aisle. But no, I think, and I see my career as one of the most important things in my life alongside being a parent, because it both gives me the opportunity to give him the life that I want. So no one's going to say that we don't get well paid in cyber. It's a really lucrative industry, so that allows me to facilitate and give my son the life that I want him to have, the best life possible. So that in itself is a huge enabling factor. But yeah, that paired with the hybrid remote flexibility that we get in cyber is something that I think has enabled me to be a better, more present parent, not necessarily tearing me away from my parenting responsibilities that potentially is perceived as a successful career would have to have on my personal life.
And I think you'll be an inspiration for your son as well. He'll look at mummy working so hard, carving out this career, and it'll be, I want to do that too. I want to be like mummy. So just be an inspiration for him.
Oh yeah, well, it's funny actually. You might have seen it on my LinkedIn. I did a guest lecture at Warwick University, where I was an alumni, and the nursery rang and said they couldn't have him. He had a temperature, so I had to take him with me to do this lecture. So 50 odd bachelor's students in cyber. So I went and I had to bring my son with me. So off we went together. And like you say, he was there with me, seemingly a bit inspired, and loved the fact that mummy was talking to this room of people. And then we went downstairs on the way out, and we walked past what was kind of like a Formula One car, or a Formula student car, so basically a race car in the lobby. And that was it. Then that was the most exciting thing he'd seen all day, was a race car. And I thought, actually, I just a massive career milestone here. I've just given my first guest lecture, and actually the only thing you're going to remember from this day is the race car that you saw on the way out. So cyber's just not as attractive as the race car. So maybe he will be inspired in some ways, but I'm yet to convince him that cyber is more fun than becoming a racing car driver. So we'll see where we get to with that.
Oh, that's lovely.
I think you're so right though as well, with the flexibility that we get in tech and in cyber, being able to work from everywhere. But then sometimes you do get the calls in the middle of the night, and you're traveling and you're there. It's like anything, it's balance, isn't it? I don't think there is a work-life balance. I think there's what there is that week, what there is that month, what there is that year to try and juggle. But from the outside looking in, it looks like you're handling it amazingly, Lauren.
Like a swan. The many shared calendars and the logistics that go around it is important, but it's a juggle, and I'm not going to smooth over it and say it's easy. But my career is something that I see as something that enables the life that I want to give my son. So I have to prioritize that. Kind of looking back, like at it strategically, what might feel quite a selfish decision in the short term, actually I know that that's going to enable, continue to enable my career, which in the long run will be the best thing for him. Yeah,
100%. I've got 2 little ones, and they know that mummy is a hacker. Apparently, that's what mummy is. Mummy is a hacker. And sometimes we go out to work. Sometimes dad does pick up. Sometimes I'm away. But they're very resilient children, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you go into nursery or school, and they'll be taught about these, really professional careers, your doctors, your nurses, the very traditional careers, and we don't really feature. So actually trying to explain the concept of what we do to a child is difficult, which again comes back to like the career pipelines. How do we continue to get people into the industry, which we see, is brilliant for all the reasons we just spoke about, when it's not really visible what we do. But I know there's people that are really dedicated to making that the case. So hopefully we'll see a really healthy pipeline of cyber professionals coming through in the future.
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more popular at university. It's just how we get them to that point of making the decision before they get to university. Thank you for being on the podcast.
No, thank you both for your time.
Thank you so much, Lauren.